Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We've got scissors over here and cutting. I think they're cutting hair. Would you do me next? No. So, sorry about that. We had a delayed reaction. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the way of truth through Torah. And guys, listen. The Torah is the only... I got to use the hands, don't you know? The Torah is the only way through truth because who is truth? Yahusha is truth. He's the truth. He's the door. He's the light. He is everything. He's the way. He is everything. Okay, so we've got some interesting things that we're going to go over today. And the first thing we're going to hit is in the very first verse of this chapter. It says, and Yahweh, in chapter 18, verse 1, Yahweh appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre while he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So, my question is, was it Yahweh or was it Yahweh's son? Let's use some scripture and let's see what scripture tells us, okay? Go to John 6:46. And once we get finished there, don't shut it up because we're going to do one more verse in John. John 6, verse 46 says, it says, Sam Sagi is calling.
Smoke Sam Sagi.
No, we don't do those calls.
Won't answer.
Ever. Okay. Now this is Yahusha. I'm going to start in verse 45. It has been written in the prophet, and they shall all be taught by Yahweh. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from Elohim. He has seen the Father. So if no one else has seen the Father, we got a problem because Abram is sitting in his tent door and he's being visited by Yahweh. Okay? What we need to understand, and I've got some more verses that we need to go through. A and E.
And when you first brought that up?
Huh?
When you first brought that up, I mean, it was like a slap in my face. What? Who was it then?
I know.
I had to go back home.
You had to go back and actually look at all the verses where Yah appeared. So, let me look at this verse. A and E. Let me go to first book of Adam and Eve, 2:5. Let me see what I've got here. And it may be nothing because I was doing a lot of notes this morning. Okay. This is after Adam and Hua have fallen. And in chapter 2, verse 5, I'm going to start in 4. And because when they were in the garden, they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, and they had not hearts turned toward earthly things. Therefore Elohim had pity on them, and when he saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, he sent his word to our father Adam and Hua and raised them from their fallen state. So from the time Adam and Hua or Eve sinned and fell, even the word of Yah is what escorted them out of the garden. The word of Yah is who Yah sent to them. In chapter 3, he says, when I shall send the word that created you in the beginning, the word created them, and against which you have transgressed, the word that made you come out of the garden. So the word walked them out of the garden. It escorted them out of the garden, and that raised you when you were fallen. Guys, the word of Yah is all that's been there since the fall. Okay, so go to John. I have really gotten off on my verses here. I'm so sorry. Go to John 12:49. Who's there?
12:49?
Yes, sir. You want to read it?
Just 49. Because I spoke not for myself, but the Father who sent me has given me a command. What should I say and what should I speak?
So what does Yahusha tell us? He says, I don't speak what I do not first hear Abba Yah speak. I don't do anything that I don't first see Abba Yah do. He is an exact imitator, replica of Yahweh in the flesh on the earth. So we see here, Yah tells him what to say, and he tells him what he should speak. He also shows him what to do.
And that's the crazy thing about the church. How they teach you that the Messiah and the Father are the same. How? He continually says what you just said. Continues in the Bible. It's telling me, I see what he does. I do
That's
what
right.
he tells me. I do what he says.
That's right.
And he continually tells me what.
And Yahusha did everything he was sent to do. He has accomplished everything
I don't do
except for his
anything-
second return.
I don't do anything of myself. I
That's
do
right.
everything what he tells me to do.
Can you imagine how amazing it would be if we could say, I don't do anything that I don't first see my Messiah do or hear my Messiah tell me to speak? Can you imagine? This would just be a world of nothing but love. It would be shalom in the home. 360 days a year, 364 days a year, 365 days a year, depending on which calendar you're on. If it's just a lunar calendar, 354 days a year.
I was talking to Addie one day, and I told her the Messiah was here, and all he did was just the healing. Just the healing alone, but it would knock out the hospitals, doctors, surgeons, pharmacies. I mean, it would hurt the whole economy, just healing. You
I
know?
want the economy to be hurt. I want to see everyone
But
healed
it's just a
and
fact.
whole.
You know,
Yes.
I would be in the kingdom where we're all,
Not crazy.
amen.
I could be normal. No, I'm kidding. Hosea 9. We're going to go 15 through 17.
Miss Vicky?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. Do you know a website where people online could look at the book of Jubilee and
Yes, I
Yasher?
got it. Yeah, I got it.
Send it to Khalil.
We got that for you too. Hey, Kalul.
Sacredtext.com.
Sacredtext.com. You're putting it in there, right? Good. Because my Texas accent might make it strange a bit. Sound a bit strange. So he said, what? Sacred? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue while y'all are helping them there. Hosea 9, verse 15 through 17. All their evil is in Gilgal, for there I have hated them. Because of the evil of their deeds, I drive them from my house. No more do I love them. All their rulers are rebels. Ephraim has been stricken, and their root has dried up. They yield no fruit. Even if they bear children, I shall put to death the precious ones of their womb. How sad is that? My Elohim rejects them because they have not obeyed him, so that they become wanderers of the nations. Here, he booted them out of the house. He could not be close to them. And we were in Hosea 9, 15 through 17. And now we're going to Habakkuk 1. And it's just over just a tad. Valerie was in Habakkuk last night.
And I was just there just now, 13. Says that he can't look on 10.
Okay, Habakkuk 1, verse 12 through 17, and Valerie's going to read the one in chapter 13.
Well, I had it. What page are we on?
I'm on page 627,
Okay.
and I'm going to start in verse 12. Are y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you not from everlasting, O Yahweh, my Elohim, my set apart one? You do not die, O Yahweh. You have appointed them for right ruling, O rock. You have established them for reproof. You, whose eyes are too clean to see evil. You are not able to look on wrong. Why do you look on those who act treacherously? Keep silent when the wrong devours one more righteous than he? And would you make men like fish of the sea, like creeping creatures that have no ruler over them? The wicked foe has pulled all of them up with a hook, caught them in his net, and gathers them in his dragnet. Therefore he rejoices and exalts. Guys, that is what Hasatan is all about. All he wants to do is hook you, drag you in his net, and keep you from learning anything about truth. He doesn't want you to learn truth, doesn't want you to hear truth. Therefore he slaughters to his net and burns incense to his dragnet. For by them is his portion fat, and his food is rich. Is he therefore to keep on emptying his net and killing nations without sparing? So I went on just to show you how evil Hasatan is, because we're going to be reading about him in a little bit. But in 13, you see here that you, and he's speaking of Yahweh, whose eyes are too clean to see evil. And what does he tell them in the wilderness, in the camp? I can't stay within your sin. I will have to leave. I will abandon you. You can go about, you can stay in the wilderness till you come into the promised land, but I won't be here with you. And Moshe begged him, please don't leave us, right? Okay, all of this to say, but, and yet, in Job 1, what do we have? And we actually have it again. We're going to see it in the story of the Akidah, the sacrifice of Isaac. You're going to see the Hasatan appeared before Yahweh, okay? And we are in verse 5 of 1. And it came to be when the days of feasting had gone round that Eo would no, that's not it. In Job, wrote down the verse. Okay, chapter 2. Chapter 2, verse 1. Again the day came to be that the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan also came among them to present himself before Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Satan, from where do you come? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, from diligently searching in the earth and from walking up and down in it. And you see here that Hasatan had access to, and I believe it's the lower rim of the heavens. From what, there's something I have read that says he had access to the lower rims. He was cast out of heaven. He was cast to the earth. But I believe he has access to the lower rim. Can anybody give me a witness to that?
What do you mean access to it? He's
Well-
thrown down to earth.
He's been thrown down to earth, but he still appears before Yah. He's the great accuser. So he comes before Yahweh to accuse us. But I believe it's one of the lower heavens.
Right.
You've read that too? I believe it's one of the lower heavens.
Yeah, 'cause
So,
there's heavens, we don't know how many heavens, heavens of heavens. Because,
Yeah.
you know, when he got stuck in the tree, they called that heaven.
that's true.
You know what I mean?
That is true. But listen, if Yah can't be in the presence of sin, what's this rascal doing in his presence? Okay? There's a difference. Yah is using Hasatan to test us. And listen, it's Yah that he's going to be testing in me. Those who are already sinning, he didn't have to
You
test
think he's
them.
talking to Yah, he's talking to Yahushua.
He's talking to Yahweh. It says, and Yahweh said to Hasatan,
Well, man, I know, but in the Old Testament says a lot of Yahweh did this.
you know what?
Off the earth.
Well, and this could be, you could be right. This could be
Because he
Hasatan
can't
himself
give
as
out
well.
either. So he gives him all the authority.
You may have just answered that question of a dilemma right there, because if it's Hasatan appearing before Yahusha, it's a completely different story. So you probably hit the nail on the head. Chaboom. I'm going to write that down in my Bible real quick.
Because what cannot Yahushua cannot do if Yahweh can give him all the authority?
That's right. Thank you very much. Did anybody else come up with that besides Pete? Pete, you get the reward today. That was a good one. Huh? I would give him a star. A cookie. Oh, he responds better to cookies.
I already
So
got a cookie.
Oh, you already
he,
got a cookie.
he like cookie. Him like cookie. What? Listen, I didn't even tell our viewing audience where we are. We're going through Torah Portia Vieira, and it's Genesis 18:1 through 22.
Don't worry, she
24.
barely tells us to.
Complain. You hear that to the corner.
Wait. No, because
You've
we
been
know
in
what
the
happened to
corner.
what's her name when they were complaining about Moshe. I would never.
Wait. I think you got a little leprous spot forming on your cheek. Oh.
Leopard spot? I'm becoming leopard?
She happens to like a leopard print, so hey.
It's my favorite color.
Okay, so we just solved a really cool test, but still, who does Yah use to judge? Hasatan. Through Yahusha. Mastema. Now, listen, I think Hasatan could be many. I mean, there are many names there. Mastema, there are other, well, Azazel to him was ascribed all of the evil, all of the sin. When we see that Hasatan is actually out there tempting, why did he get some of that blame, right? So I think it's going to be really interesting when we see exactly what this is all about. There are many. Listen, there are things that we have learned and that we are answering. Just like Pete, we had a great discovery today. It was a great revelation that this is not Yahuwah. This is Yahusha. So I'm still in a wow mode there. So there you go. Let's just keep going forward.
You know
we don't
what?
even have to stop.
I have a thought that I want to share.
I like
and get y'all's
thoughts.
opinion on it. So, if Mashiach has been appearing throughout time, is he still appearing to people today?
He could be. Well, I mean, he is the Spirit. Because in John, he tells us, I'm not going to leave you as orphans. I'm coming back to you. So it's
Well,
the
he said he
Spirit.
would manifest himself.
He says, I will not set foot back on this plane until the Jerusalem says, Baruch, until they say, blessed be he who comes in the name of Yahweh. But that's in the physical. I don't know, spiritually, I believe he is here. We have people in
I
Iran
agree.
who have visitations. I mean, we've heard many. There are very few missionaries that go to Iran. We hear many stories that they say, well, yeah, Jesus came and he spent time with me and he taught me the Bible.
Yeah, the Cherokee have an oral story.
I mean, he is through the Holy Spirit. I mean, this is what.
That's exactly what it is. So as the Holy Spirit, yes, he's coming back.
And we probably identify, you were talking about Hasatan earlier, and could he be, well, whatever spirit, you can only serve one or the other. And
Yep.
if you're not serving him, then you would probably, anybody could identify as that spirit, the
Yep.
Antichrist or Hasatan or whatever. And the people who have the spirit of truth inside of them, I think as from y'all's perspective, he would be identifying us as Yahusha's, looking like him.
Yes.
So we can kind of because it's one or the other.
Well,
You're
listen.
not gonna.
When he looks, what if they don't even see this physical thing? What as if Yah sees the spirit, our spirit? And if he's seeing our spirit, is it Yahusha's spirit that he's seeing? I mean, when he looks down, I'm just wondering. We're doing a lot of wondering today.
We like to wonder.
That's what he looks at. He looks at our heart.
Our heart.
You don't see the physicality.
No, thank goodness, huh?
Remind me to tell you a crazy story. It popped in my mind when you were talking about that thing.
Write it down.
Earlier.
And write it down for me to remind you, because
Oh, boy.
pop the card up and.
I can't say it on live stream though, because they'll probably ban you. 'Cause it's a little-
Oh no! They probably wouldn't ban me anyway, huh?
That's what he goes saying about man's. We don't see by man's eyes, we see by Elohim's eyes, because as Christians do, they portray this family of perfectness out to the public,
Uh huh.
behind closed doors. How are you true?
That
And that's why.
That's where the metal. That's where the rubber hits the road. Is that what they say? That's where the rubber hits the road. It's when you're in your home, and how are you behaving there, and how are you treating the people that you're around. I mean, and I'll speak to you women. If you're married to a man who is not covenanted, you still have to treat him with respect as a husband and the head of the house, except when he goes against y'all's word. Okay? So, and the men, same thing. You have to respect the women. If you're married to a woman who's not covenanted, and it happened before you started this walk, you still have to love her just as Yahusha loved the church. So, there, said that.
Love her from a distance.
That's not what I said.
Feel the silence just then.
No, he felt the dirty looks from all the women. Were like, what?
I look down.
Yeah. He wanted to crawl under his chair.
His mask on.
Okay, we're going into Yasher, chapter 18,
Right?
verse 3.
Yasher. Sorry. I haven't even ate the pie yet.
How many coffees did you
One.
Oh.
This is my new energy level from fasting. It is great. It's natural.
Intermittent.
Yes.
It is good, isn't it? Okay, chapter 18, verse 3. And in the third day, Abraham went out of his tent and sat at the door to enjoy the heat of the sun during the pain of his flesh. And Yahweh appeared to him in the plain of Mamre and sent 3 of his ministering angels to him. And he was sitting at the door of the tent, and he lifted his eyes and saw, and lo, 3 men were coming from a distance. And he rose up and he ran to meet them, and he bowed down to them and brought them into his house. Okay, Abraham has just been circumcised. This is why he's sitting in the doorway of his tent, relaxing, enjoying the heat of the sun because he's in pain. Yet he sees these angels and he gets up and he runs. He has overcome pain.
Does that mean that when we're feeling bad, that we need the vitamins from the sun to help heal us?
Vitamin D works wonders. It did wonders for the, what did Candace call? The Jabberwocky disease?
Jabberoo.
Jabberoo.
I wanted to ask this question
I'm in Alice in
earlier
Wonderland, the Jabberwocky.
on the first session, but since we're coming right back here to where we kind of left off, the 8th day circumcision, is that a foreshadowing, because on the 8th day, like, our hearts will be completely
Wow.
circumcised? Is
Yes.
that what I was just thinking about that.
Yes.
Last night we were talking about
That's
it.
a beautiful picture of it. It really
Yeah.
is.
That is another reason why maybe he wants it done on that day. And our society now has pushed it to the 2nd or 3rd day,
Yep.
that after our children are born.
If
or
they're
not the
doing it,
first.
if they're doing it at all.
Right.
And so why do they do it on the 8th day?
Coagulate.
Coagulates. So what they have found medically is that on the 8th day, the blood coagulates. And so y'all said, on the 8th day, you're going to circumcise my little boys because their blood's going to coagulate and they're not going to bleed out. Okay? He does everything with purpose, and it's beautiful.
I just in love.
Salvation is in the blood.
Well, that's
The
right. I
life,
didn't think about
life through Yahusha is in his blood. Okay, are we ready?
circumcision of the physical and spiritual.
That's right.
I told you.
It's real though.
Okay, so we've just been circumcised. He's up running
I
about,
haven't.
and you're going to see, I know, and we're glad of that. Of the heart, yeah, that fleshly
The heart,
heart.
yes.
So they don't circumcise 100-year-old women anyway.
Wait a minute, what?
You are so right.
I'm kidding. I love you.
I'm glad I'm
That
not
was
gonna have to dug.
That's
Misty's.
right.
That was Misty's fault.
Sounds like
Okay.
you really love me.
Rated R version is
Okay. Listen, what you're going to see with Abraham, is that he hastens and runs as fast as he can. He's so wanting to please Yahweh. And so he rose and he ran to meet them. Then he bowed down to them, and he brought them into his house, and he said to them, if now I have found favor in your sight, turn in and eat a morsel of bread. And he pressed them, and they turned in, and he gave them water, and they washed their feet. And he placed them under a tree at the door of the tent. And Abraham ran, and he took a calf, tender and good, and he hastened to kill it, and gave it to his servant Eleazar to dress. And Abraham came to Sarah in the tent, and he said to her, make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal. Knead it and make cakes to cover the pot containing the meat. And she did so. And Abraham hastened and brought before them, and we're fixing to blow something else out of the water here,
Ooh, blow it.
butter and milk with beef and mutton, and gave it to them to eat before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done, and they did eat. We just knocked 2 things out of the ballpark. You can eat rare meat. They did. Okay?
Where?
It was not sufficiently done. Before the meat was sufficiently done, they did eat.
It's rare.
It was rare. Okay, so the blood is not, when he says do not eat blood, it's not speaking of the blood in the meat. That's a different type of blood. It's the blood that curses through the veins, that gives you life. So there's one definite, I'm going to say witness.
Oh, and then the
To
meat
the
with
blood.
the milk, the mother.
And then the other one is the Jews are like, oh, it's not kosher. You can't have meat and milk. You can't have a cheeseburger. Yes, you can. You can have your cheeseburger and you can eat it. Well, if you go to Israel and you go to McDonald's, you can't get a cheeseburger. I'm like, the cheese, no, the cheese on my burger? What? I can't do that. So, guys, they don't mix the meat and the cheese or the milk or the cream or the butter, okay? Because butter's for milk. So you can't mix any of that if you're Jewish, because what did they do? They took the law and they added and added and added to it and made it crazy. So Abraham did feed the angels, the messengers, meat and cheese, meat and butter, meat and milk, okay? And more than likely, the milk was curdled, unless they were drinking a lot of milk every day. Oh, such wimps. Huh?
I'm looking up sufficient. Sufficient means enough.
Okay, it was before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done. So it was not done. It's what I'm getting from that, and I may be wrong, but it sounds like it hadn't been cooked enough. Boy,
He was in a big hurry, huh?
he hastened so fast that he didn't even cook it. It says it was not done sufficiently.
So it was done enough?
I mean,
Enough
it's got a
done?
little pinkish to it.
Well,
I won't say red.
Yeah.
we don't know how much color there was to it. It says the flesh of the calf was sufficient. He gave it to them, gave it before them to eat before the flesh of the calf was sufficiently done. So it was prior to it being sufficiently cooked, as per what he would have normally cooked it. Is what I'm thinking. Anybody else have thoughts? Because it sounds like it's either pink or red. Could have been rare still. Anybody?
I don't know. I mean, I just.
Well, my brain is thinking, could it have been that they were having an appetizer before it was?
I don't get what red, when it's red still, it's DNA. It's still protein.
No, it's called something besides blood. It's called.
I mean, it's called something different, but still that's protein. Still, the redness is, you gotta sit there for 24 hours and all of it is running out.
So they wouldn't have had to have done that, right?
They didn't. He ran and he hastily. I'm just saying what's the.
Yeah, I know, it's just because it's called different, but it's still blood.
Trying to give your phone away.
How is it not blood?
The blood is in the veins. What is in the meat is called something else. It's called
Well, it's blood.
Hemoglobin?
huh?
Isn't it called hemoglobin?
Hemoglobin.
That's blood.
Well, it's not defined as blood,
It's
and
protein. I mean,
and-
it's broken down. Hemoglobin is what.
we need to do a study on it. But it wasn't sufficiently cooked here. We don't know if it was pink
Yeah, I know, but
or.
hemoglobin is what makes blood. It's one of the parts of blood. Hemoglobin, protein, it's a combination of things that makes hemoglobin.
Okay.
I mean, that's what, I mean, I'm studying it, that's what I gotta take for medication for it to make it.
Okay.
Well, you know, in Middle Eastern culture too, like sharing a meal with someone is like about
It's a covenant.
sharing who you're in covenant with.
Yep, it's a covenanted meal.
So I wonder if while this food was being prepped,
And then maybe the
Before
meat
it
just wasn't
was-
tender, like it was cooked all the way, but you know, like a roast or something, you have to cook it for a long time.
Could have been.
Maybe it was just still tough and it wasn't, you know, delightful to chew or something.
Okay, so it could have been that it wasn't cooked enough to be tender.
I was thinking more so they could have shared words as a meal before this was sufficiently done. Because Mashiach said man does not live by bread alone, but by every word.
Yeah, they're talking of the flesh of the. They're talking of the flesh of the calf, though. So this is specific to the meat that they're cooking before the meat of the calf was
Because if it's
sufficiently
officially done.
done.
I mean, you
Guys, let's not get hung up on this. We've got a lot to go through, okay? I'm not going to get hung. Okay, so it may possibly have been rare. It may have possibly
Well, I mean, it's
been
just something that you don't have
tough.
to lead somebody into wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what the point I'm putting to you. If you're not for sure of what it's saying, you won't lead them to the wrong, but a lot of people gotta.
So everything I've studied has said that rare meat is not blood. I need to probably study some more because I'm getting some kickback here. Quit kicking. No.
Well,
I'm getting
hemoglobin is
kickback.
blood.
I've got to look and see what the words are. So for live streamers, we're going to do some more research on that because, I mean, I was under the impression that if it's rare, it's edible. So this says it wasn't sufficiently done. we need to look and see. But I was thinking the kosher rules even took in rare. Are you looking it up? Somebody? Our looker upper is gone. Okay, so we're gonna look that up, but we blew the one thing out of the water, that they did serve meat and milk. Okay? Everybody's in their Google now. Okay. And when they had done eating, one of them said to him, I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah your woman shall have a son. And the men afterward departed and went their ways to the place to which they were sent. And in those days all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and of the whole 5 cities were exceedingly wicked and sinful against Yahweh, and they provoked Yahweh with their abominations, and they strengthened in being abominably and scornfully before Yahweh, and their wickedness and crimes were in those days great before Yahweh. And they had in their land a very extensive valley, about half a day's walk. Anybody stop me when you find what? Okay.
Hemoglobin?
Yes.
Hemoglobin is iron containing oxygen transported, melanoprotein in the red blood cells along with all vertebrates, as well as tissues of some invertebrates. Hemoglobin in blood carries oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body.
Okay. We're looking at it as a kosher food, so that's what I'm interested in. I already knew that, but I'm saying, is that is that kosher, or is that considered blood? Yeah, it's a big difference. So see if the meat is not. Can you look it up? See if the meat is rare, if it's cooked rare, if that is considered kosher. And I'm probably the only one that was under the impression that it's okay.
I
Okay.
thought it was okay till I hung out with him one night.
Yeah, he runs a lot of things, huh?
I was like, no, don't tell me that.
I used to love it too. I mean, I haven't seen it since.
Huh?
I used to love rare steaks. Also, I came around to study.
So you're not eating rare anymore? So I'm just gonna be honest. I do eat rare, and so I need to know. So you're.
Thank you for being truthful.
Lamb on Passover is rare.
Yeah, the lamb on Passover is, normally the lamb that I cook, it's not usually rare, it's usually a medium rare. But, okay, in those days, okay, we're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. They had in their land a very extensive valley, about half a day's walk, and in it there were fountains of water and a great deal of herbage surrounding the water. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah went there 4 times a year with their women. I want you to listen to this, because this is how evil they were. They went there with their women and children and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced there with timbrels and dances. And in the time of rejoicing, they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' women and some of the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. Each man saw his woman and daughter in the hands of his neighbor and did not say a word. And they did so from morning to night. And they afterward returned home, each man to his house and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year. So they had 4, what would you even call that? Wild parties a year, 4 of them. And they were set times. So it could have been the fall equinox, it could have been the winter solstice, the spring equinox, and the summer solstice. That would be 4 times a year. That would be, important dates. Also, when a stranger came into their cities, guys, this is crazy what they did. When a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there, the people of those cities would assemble, men, women, and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, "What is this work which you have done to me?" then they would approach to him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took, and taught him, saying, "I only took that little which you did give me. So you gave me this. I didn't take it. I took what you gave me." And when he heard this from all of them, he would arise and go from there in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. These people were rude, mean, immoral. I mean, huh? She said, are we talking about New York? I don't know. It could be Seattle.
New Orleans?
Could be New Orleans.
How about that?
It could be. Is it Mahaya? Mahayer?
Uh-huh.
And there was a man from the country of Elam who was leisurely going on the road, seated upon his ass, which carried a fine mantle of diverse colors, and the mantle was bound with a cord upon the ass. And the man was on his journey, passing through the street of Sodom when the sun set in the evening. And he remained there in order to abide during the night. But no one would let him into his house. And at that time there was in Sodom a wicked and mischievous man, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Hadad. And he lifted up his eyes, and he saw the traveler in the street of the city, and he came to him, and he said, Whence come you, and whither do you go? And the man said to him, I'm traveling from Chevron to Elam, where I belong, and as I passed the sunset, no one would suffer me to enter into their house, though I had bread and water, and also straw and provender for my donkey, and I'm short of nothing. So he's like, I wouldn't even be a burden. I've got my own food, I've got my own straw and fodder for my donkey, and I don't need anything. And Hadad answered and said to him, All that you shall want shall be supplied by me, but in the street you shall not abide all night. And Hadad brought him to his house, and he took off the mantle from the donkey with the cord, and brought them to his house, and he gave the donkey straw and provender while the traveler ate and drank in Hadad's house, and he abode there that night. And in the morning the traveler rose up to continue his journey, when Hadad said to him, Wait, comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and then go. And the man did so, and he remained with him, and they both ate and drank together during the day. When the man rose to go, and Hadad said to him, Behold, now the day is declining. You better remain all night, that your heart may be comforted. And he pressed him so that he tarried there all night. And on the second day he rose to go away early. And when Hadad pressed him, saying, Comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and then go. And he remained and ate with him also the second day. And then the man rose to continue his journey. And Hadad said to him, Behold, now the day is declining. Remain with me. Comfort your heart, and in the morning rise up and go your way. And the man would not remain, but rose and saddled his donkey. And while he was saddling his donkey, the woman of Hadad said to her man, Behold, this man has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now shall he go away from us without giving anything? And Hadad said to her, Be silent. And the man saddled his donkey to go, and asked Hadad to give him the cord and the mantle to tie it upon the donkey. And Hadad said to him, What say you? And he said to him, that you, my Adonai, shall give me the cord and the mantle made from the diverse colors which you did conceal with you in your house to take care of it. And Hadad answered the man, saying, This is the interpretation of your dream. The cord which you see means that your life will be lengthened out like a cord, and having seen the mantle colored with all sorts of colors means that you shall have a vineyard in which you shall plant trees of all fruits. And the traveler answered, saying, Not so, my Adonai, for I was awake when I gave you the cord, and also the mantle woven with different colors, which you did take off the donkey to put them by for me. And Hadad answered and said, Surely I have told you the interpretation of your dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation thereof. And now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge, for interpreting dreams, and of you only I require 3 pieces of silver. Flim-flam men, aren't they? I mean, all of them. And the man was provoked at the words of Hadad. He cried bitterly, and he brought Hadad to Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the man laid his cause before Sirach the judge, when Hadad replied, saying, It is not so, but thus the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, This man Hadad tells you the truth, for he is famed in the cities for accurate interpretation of dreams. And the man cried at the word of the judge, and he said, Not so, my Adonai, for it was in the day that I gave him the cord and the mantle which was upon the donkey, in order to put them by in his house. And they both disputed before the judge, the one saying thus, the matter was, and the other declaring otherwise. And Hadad said to the man, give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretation of dreams. I will not make any allowance, and give me the expense of the 4 meals that you did eat in my house. And the man said to Hadad, truly, I will pay you for what I ate in your house. Only give me the cord and the mantle which you did conceal in your house. And Hadad replied, he just keeps on going back to, well, this is the interpretation of your dream. He is not acknowledging at all that he took the mantle and the cord. And the man cried at the words of Hadad, and they both quarreled before the judge, and the judge gave orders to his servants, who drove them rashly from the house. And they went away quarreling from the judge. When the people of Sodom heard them, and they gathered about them, and they exclaimed against the stranger, and they drove him rashly from the city. And the man continued his journey upon his donkey with bitterness of soul, lamenting and weeping. And while he was going along, he wept at what had happened to him in the corrupt city of Sodom. And all the cities of, and the cities of Sodom, and 4 judges to 4 cities, and these were their names. Let me see something here. I'm going to go down to 8, in chapter 19, verse 8. And when a poor man came to their land, they would give him silver and gold, and cause a proclamation in the whole city not to give him a morsel of bread to eat. So a poor man's come in there, and they've ladled him down with gold and silver. Yet when he goes to buy, they won't sell, and they won't give him anything to eat. And if the stranger should remain there some days and die from hunger, not having been able to obtain a morsel of bread, then at his death all the people of the city would come and take their silver and their gold which they had given him. They would also strip off his garments, and they would fight over them.
Awful. So they gave this person wealth, but they didn't really intend for that person to keep it.
They knew he was going to die.
Yeah, they were like, well, let's just not feed him and we'll get our money back.
It would be like you coming and going, I'm starving, and I give you, 40 pounds of gold, and I go, here, go buy food. But no one in the city is going to sell you not a morsel of bread or water.
What if you leave the city with the money?
Well, if you could carry 40 pounds and hungry.
Maybe they had a different currency or something. And he had to stay there.
They would wait till he was dead, strip him of his garments, and they would fight over the garments, and literally they would fight their neighbor for him. And then they would take him and carry him and bury him under some of the shrubs in the desert. So they did this to everyone who came into their city. In the course of time, Sarah sent Eleazar to Sodom to see Lot and inquire after his health, his welfare. And Eleazar went to Sodom, and he met a man of Sodom fighting with a stranger. And the man of Sodom stripped the poor man of all his clothes and went away. And this poor man cried to Eleazar and supplicated his favor on account of what the man of Sodom had done to him. And he said to him, why do you act thus to the poor man who came to your land? And the man of Sodom answered Eleazar, saying, is this man your brother? Or have the people of Sodom made you a judge this day that you speak about this man? And Eleazar strove with the man of Sodom on account of the poor man. And when Eleazar approached to recover the poor man's clothes from the man of Sodom, he hastened and with a stone smote Eleazar in the forehead. And the blood flowed copiously from Eleazar's forehead. And then, I'm going to make this very short. The man then turned around and said, okay, you now owe me money because I got rid of the bad blood that's in your body. So you owe me. And Eleazar was like, I'm not giving you any money.
It sounds like America.
Everything was corrupt here. But listen, what Eleazar did.
I mean,
In verse 21, the judge said to Eleazar, this man speaks truth to you. Give him his hire, for this is the custom in our land. And Eleazar heard the words of the judge. He lifted up a stone, and he smote the judge in the head. And the stone struck his forehead, and blood flowed copiously from the forehead of the judge. And Eleazar said, if this is then the custom in your land, give you unto this man what I should have given him, for this has been your decision, and you did decree it. So he basically struck the judge, rid him of his bad blood, and said, instead of paying me, you just pay the guy that I owe. So they worked it out.
Walked off with that both of them holding their heads.
Yes. He looked at each other. Okay, in verse 26, let me start in 25. A poor man came into the city to seek a maintenance, and he remained in the city some days, and all the people of Sodom caused a proclamation of their custom not to give this man a morsel of bread to eat until he dropped dead upon the earth. They did so. And Paltith, the daughter of Lot, saw this man lying in the street, starved and hunger, and no one would give him anything to keep him alive. And he was just at the point of death, and her soul was filled with pity on account of the man. And she fed him secretly with bread for many days. So she would go after water at the well. She would fill her water well pot with bread, and she would slip him the bread secretly, and then she would go on to get water. And they were wondering, why isn't he dead? He should have already died. And then they found out that Paltith, Lot's daughter, was feeding him and giving him water. So they carried her out in the middle of the street and they burned her to death. This is the kind of craziness that was going on there. But there was something else. When men would come into Addie, cover your ears. When men would come into the city and they were strangers, she's not going to cover them. She's like, let me see.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, Addie. She heard that. They would take the men. They would take them. 8 men would take him to a bed. There was a bed in each one of the regions, and they would rape him. Okay? Then, if he was a very short man, they would stretch him on the bed and, like, pull him to pieces.
Hey, why? Who?
Huh?
Why?
Because they were evil.
We don't really realize how evil it really was back then.
Oh, it's evil today.
Christianity,
It's just
was
hidden
just as
today.
bad as Muslims. Catholic was just as bad as Christianity and Muslim. I mean, it was torture. People got tortured.
I was trying to find where it was. You can, Addie.
You're okay, baby.
You're good, baby.
It's your, not something for young years.
Yeah, it's just, it's awful. 44, and Yahweh was provoked at this and all the works of the cities of Sodom, for they had abundance of food, had tranquility amongst them, and still would not sustain the poor and the needy. And in those days their evil doings and the sins became great before Yahweh. And Yahweh sent for 2 of the angels that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. Guys, this is how evil they were.
Sounds familiar.
Yah was not going to allow it to stand. You know, so many people go, well, if he judged Sodom and Gomorrah, what's he going to do to some of these cities? And he's going to do the same thing. Yeah, fire. It's coming out of the ground now, huh?
They're not happening now.
It is. We've got fire. Look, last time water broke through the ground. This time fire's breaking through the ground. Okay.
And it literally is.
And the angels rose up from the door of Abraham's tent, and after they had eaten and drunk, and they reached Sodom in the evening, and Lot was still sitting in the gate of Sodom, and when he saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed down to the ground. And the angel said to Lot, arise and go forth from this place, you and all belonging to you, lest you be consumed in the iniquity of this city, for Yahweh will destroy this place. He was going to destroy this whole area, but all 4 of these cities did get destroyed. So his wife's name was Ado. And as they were leaving the city and escaping, Ado, which was a woman of Lot, looked back to see the destruction of the city. For her compassion was moved on account of her daughters.
Yeah.
So some of her children did not come because she did have 2 son-in-laws. And so 2 of the daughters stayed in the city, and her longing was for her children. And she looked back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. And supposedly the animals still look that salt block today, and it grows back. I don't know if that's true, okay? Okay, 57. And Lot and his 2 daughters remained in the cave, and they made their father drink wine, and they lay with him. Boy, you've heard this story before, haven't you? Okay. And they lay with him, for they said there was no man upon earth that could raise up seed from them, for they thought the whole earth was destroyed. And you know what, guys? If we were living in, I'm going to tell you, if we were living in La Palma and we didn't have any communication to the outside world, it would be really easy to assume that the whole world is being destroyed if we didn't understand. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, and they both lay with their father, and they conceived and bore sons, and the firstborn called the name of her son Moab, saying, "From my father did I conceive him." Like she's proud of this. He is the father of the Moabite unto this day. And the younger also called her son Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. And after this, Lot and his 2 daughters went away from there, and he dwelt on the other side of the Jordan with his 2 daughters and their sons. And the sons of Lot grew up, and they went and took themselves women from the land of Canaan, and they begat children, and they were fruitful, and they multiplied. Guys, listen, I want us to look at Deuteronomy 2:9, because I want you to see that Yah has blessed them. He would not allow Israel to take their land. And Yahweh said to me, "Do not distress Moab, nor stir yourself up against them in battle, for I do not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as a possession." But look at Deuteronomy 23:3. So he's telling Israel, you cannot take your brother's land. Don't stir them up. Don't take from Moab or Ammon. 23, verse 3 says, "An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of Yahweh. Even a 10th generation shall not ever enter the assembly of Yahweh." Guys, listen. Who was a Moabite?
Ruth.
Ruth was a Moabite. She was not past the 10th generation, okay? Yet, she did enter the assembly because guess what?
Because he did Torah and fed the poor with the corners of the...
It wasn't just him. She said to Naomi, she said, "Where you go, I go. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. Where you die, I die. What you are, I am." So she changed her citizenship from a Moabite to a Israelite. And by doing so, listen, we can't help what we're born. We can't help what we're born into. But you can change it. And it's a decision, and it's all up to you. So you can become what you know that Yah wants you to be. You get to choose. You don't get to stay in the rut. You don't get to stay in the hole. And guess whose genealogy Ruth is in?
Yahusha's.
She's in King David's,
Messiah.
and she's in our Messiah Yahusha's. Straight down the line. So is Rahab, and she was a prostitute.
Something,
What?
nothing.
What?
And it felt like y'all was guiding her. Because anybody else would have ran back to their parents and their foreign gods.
Look
She was
how.
like, "No, I'll go with you to a faraway place and live with you and look
She-
out for you."
And think of it. She knew Naomi didn't have any more children. She had no one to go and help her. She was going to be traveling alone. She stuck right beside her.
And you know, there's a thing, you want to go? It just hit me. If she was the rightful, because the way it was is whenever your husband would die, you'd marry the brother. If Naomi had no sons, that means she's not going to have any land, ever.
She could still marry. She could
She
have married.
could, but Naomi was making it clear she didn't have any.
Oh, Naomi
Yeah.
did. She's like,
So
I
she
have
didn't
no more
have
sons for
anything
you to marry.
offer her.
That's
Well, she
right.
married a relative, Boaz.
But Ruth didn't know that. I see where you're coming from. She had no idea that she was going to meet a relative,
Right.
and so that was a beautiful story because she was willing to sacrifice everything for her. She was out reaping the leftovers. Yes,
It's
sir.
on my mind right now that Ruth chose to follow Elohim while the other daughter-in-law said no.
That's
She
right.
went back to her foreign.
The other one
Back to the
said,
one,
"Good luck. I'm out of here.
"Yeah, I'm done, I don't want. I don't
Had
live
enough of
with
these Israelites.
But
I'm
they
gone."
both had seen the power in Naomi from Yah. They both had that opportunity.
you." And one still chose to go back to her way.
She
That's
went
right.
back to her
And
pagan ways.
that's what I'm trying to say, that still the option he gave, choose Elohim or choose,
Right.
she chose her desires.
Yeah.
One chose to seek
The
Elohim.
desires of going back.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful story. It's a story of us.
I pulled a ruse.
Yes.
Yep.
You want to tell us about it?
Well, Ruthie.
We are. Listen, we
I gave
are
it to her,
all
it's
Ruth.
suited. And that's why, like, one time, I need to go and do what he's asked me to do. He's asked me to do a study about that decision, and that's what, when I saw Abraham, that decision that he made and what y'all did through his life because of that, that was when I knew that there was something there whenever you make that decision to cross over and to be his child, to be in covenant with him.
Guys, I want to show y'all something in the first book of Adam and Hua about how really, really bad Hasatan is. Is he okay?
Dad said he couldn't.
I'm in the 55th chapter of the first book of Adam and Hua.
What letters are those?
Oh, VV. No, wait, what's 50?
B?
V?
Yeah, B.
Is it VV?
50,
Is it VXV? XV?
Now is,
L
I don't know.
Okay, never mind.
That's B.
I'll just listen to you read.
which verse, which
It's
chapter?
LV. It's LV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, me too.
Where's
I'm not a Roman.
That's 55.
Is it the conflict?
Not like
between
Shaul.
God and
It's
Satan?
L.
L is 50.
Yeah.
L, B is 55.
Nobody listens.
It is chapter 55.
Conflict
LV.
between God and Satan? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
Hallelujah.
Okay. Then came the word of Elohim to Adam and Hua and raised them from their dead state, saying to them, why did you come up here? Did you intend to go into the garden from which I brought you out? It cannot be today, but only when the covenant I've made with you is fulfilled. And then Adam, when he heard the word of Elohim in the fluttering of the angels, whom he did not see, but only heard the sound of them with his ears, he and Hua cried and said to the angels, oh, Ruachov, who wait on Elohim, look at me and at my being unable to see you. For when I was in my former bright nature, then I could see you. I sang praises as you do, and my heart was far above you. But now that I have transgressed, that bright nature is gone from me, and I am come to this miserable state. Guys, listen. This is what he's talking about. This, I could slam my head. This body, I thought I had glasses there. This body that we're in right now, this is that miserable state that he's talking about. He's in the physical body. Can you imagine how free we're going to be when we're in the spirit? And now I have come to this, that I cannot see you. So he lost his vision. He could see them prior to becoming flesh. And you do not serve me like you used to. So the angels used to minister to Adam. Okay? For I have become animal flesh. We're animal flesh. We have got animal habits. And that's why we cannot go into the kingdom as we are. A picture of rabbits?
Creatures of habits.
Oh, creatures.
Creature rabbit.
Creatures of habits.
Picture of habits. That's so funny.
You have to talk into my right ear.
See the picture of rabbits.
I know, Brady, isn't that crazy?
He's a vegetarian. He only eats lettuce. He only eats lettuce and carrots. And he doesn't eat rabbits.
Oh.
Is it kosher?
Yes.
Rabbits?
Yeah. Only thing he does eat is
Oh, the rabbit's eating
the
kosher.
rabbit. Well, actually, no. He eats one thing that's not kosher. Rabbit
Gone
gummies.
round the circle.
Oh, he eats rabbit gummies. I'm not going to ask what that is. Okay. Yet now,
Rabbit.
Brady.
Rabbit.
Words.
Yet now, O angels of Elohim, ask Elohim with me to restore me to that wherein I was formerly, to rescue me from this misery, and to remove me from the sentence of death he passed on me for having trespassed against him. Then, when the angels heard these words, they all grieved over him. They cursed Satan who had misled Adam until he came from the garden to misery, from life to death. He went from life to death, guys. What does sin lead to? Death. So disobedience leads to death. From peace to trouble, from gladness to a strange land. And then the angel said to Adam, you obeyed Satan. Listen, we don't, guys, we don't think about the fact that if we're not obeying Yahweh, we're being obedient to Satan. I mean, you're obeying someone. If you're trespassing the commandments, then you're being obedient to
So
Hasatan.
one or two masters.
That's right, Dennis. One of the two.
Which
And
is your
if
father.
that, that's
The
right.
verse says the father of lies.
That's right.
Hmm.
And you ignored the word of Elohim, who created you. I mean, this is so full of, the word created you. This is such a witness for the Genesis creation. And you believe that Satan would fulfill all he promised you, but now, O Adam, we will make known to you what came over us through him before his fall from heaven. So you're going to hear the story of the messengers and how they dealt with him. He gathered together his host and deceived them, promising to give them a great kingdom, a divine nature like Yah, and other promises he made them. His host believed that his word was true, so they yielded to him and renounced the glory of Elohim. He then sent for us according to the orders in which we were to come under his command and to accept his vain promise, but we would not, and we did not take his advice. Then after he had fought with Elohim and had dealt forwardly with him, he gathered together his host and made war with us. And if it had not been for Elohim's strength that was with us, we could not have prevailed against him to hurl him from heaven. But when he fell from amongst us, there was great joy in heaven because of his going down from us. For if he had remained in heaven, nothing, not even one angel would have remained in it. Guys, this is how evil he is and how convincing he is. Don't you want to be like Yah? This was his sin. Exact same sin he committed in the heavens. He wanted to be above Yah. So what did he hit Adam and Eve with? Well, don't you want to be like Yah and know good from evil?
No,
And he hits us with that. But Elohim, in his mercy, drove him from among us to this dark earth. That's where we're living, a dark earth. For he had become darkness itself and a worker of unrighteousness, and he has continued, O Adam, to make war against you until he tricked you and made you come out of the garden to the strange land where all these trials have come to you. And death, which Elohim brought to him, he has also brought to you. O Adam, because you obeyed him and trespassed against Elohim. Then all the angels rejoiced and praised Elohim and asked him not to destroy Adam for this time. For this having sought to enter the garden, but to bear with him until the fulfillment of the promise, and to help him in this world until he was free from Satan's hand. Guys, he is constantly trying to make us fall and trip. And the next chapter is divine comfort. Then came the word of Elohim to Adam and said to him, O Adam, look at the garden of joy and at this earth of toil. And behold, the garden is full of angels, but look at yourself alone on this earth with Satan whom you obeyed. Yet, if you had submitted and been obedient to me and had kept my word, you would be with my angels in my garden. But when you transgressed and obeyed Satan, you became his guest among his angels that are full of wickedness. And you came to this earth that brings forth to you thorns and thistles. O Adam, ask him who deceived you to give you the divine nature he promised you, or to make you a garden as I made for you, or to fill you with that same bright nature which I have filled you. Ask him to make you a body like the one I made you, or to give you a day of rest as I gave you, or to create with you a reasonable soul as I created for you, or to take you from here to some other earth than this one which I gave you. But, O Adam, he will not fulfill even one of those things he told you. Acknowledge then my favor towards you and my mercy on you, my creature, that I have not avenged you for your transgression against me, but in my pity for you I have promised you that at the end of the great 5.5 days I will come and save you. Then Elohim said again to Adam and Hua, get up and go down from here before the cherub with the sword in his hand destroys you. But Adam's heart was comforted by Elohim's words to him, and he worshipped before him. And Elohim commanded his angels to escort Adam and Hua to the cave of joy instead of fear that had come over them. Go down to 57, which would be L-I-I-V, I think.
LVII.
Which would be L-V-I-I.
She really doesn't.
I'm not Roman. But when Adam came out and saw his hideous figure, he was afraid of him, and he said to him, "Who are you?" And then Satan answered and said to him, "It is I who hid myself within the serpent, and who spoke to Hua, and who enticed her until she obeyed my command. I am he who sent her, using my deceitful speech to deceive you, until you both ate of the fruit of the tree and abandoned the command of Elohim." But when Adam heard these words from him, he said to him, "Can you make me a garden as Elohim made for me? Or can you clothe me in the same bright nature in which Elohim had clothed me? Where is the divine nature you promised to give me? And where is that slick speech of yours that you had with us at first, when we were in the garden?" And then Satan said to Adam, "Do you think that when I have promised one thing that I would actually deliver it to him or fulfill my word? Of course not. For I myself have never even thought of obtaining what I promised. Therefore I fell, and I made you fall about that which I fell myself. And with you also, whosoever accepts my counsel falls thereby. But now, O Adam, because you fell under my rule, and I am king over you, because you obeyed me and have transgressed against your Elohim, neither will there be any deliverance from my hands until the day promised you by your Elohim." And again he said, "Because we do not know the day agreed on with you by your Elohim, nor the hour in which you shall be delivered. For that reason we will multiply war." Listen to this. We're going to multiply war and murder on you and your descendants after you. And this is our will and our good pleasure, that we may not leave one of the sons of men to inherit our orders in heaven. For as to our home, O Adam, it is in burning fire, and we will not stop our evil doing. No, not one day, nor 1 hour. And I, O Adam, shall set you on fire when you come into the cave to live. And Adam heard these words, and he cried and he mourned, and he said to Hua, "Did you hear what he said? That he will not fulfill any of what he told you in the garden. Did he really then become king over us? But we will ask Elohim, who created us, to deliver us out of his hand." So, listen, if you're being obedient to Hasatan, he is your king. He's your master. He's your Lord. What, Valerie?
Nothing.
You had that look on your face.
Nope.
Okay, Abimelech, I'm going to skip through a lot of this, and because I want to get to the Akidah. But Abimelech is the second place that Abraham went. And what did he tell Sarah? "I want you to tell him, you're my sister." So they get to Abimelech. Guys, listen, do you know who Abimelech is?
He always shows up and there's bad.
No, he's good.
Amalek.
He's a good guy.
Oh, who?
Amalek.
That's
Oh,
Amalek.
Amalek.
Abimelech
Hold on.
is Shem's son.
That's why he said that he was good. Yeah, he served Yahweh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, he said that he wasn't a bad man. He's like, "I'm not a bad man. Why would you do
No,
these things?"
yeah.
And then,
If you look at Yasher 24:14, and don't go there, I'll just read it.
okay.
At her coffin was Shem, his sons Eber and Abimelech, together with Anar, Ashkel. All of the grandees of the land came to Sarah's funeral. But I want you to see that he is Shem's son, and he was a good man. He made a covenant with Abraham, and he kept it even down to Isaac. He kept his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and he treated Isaac as well as he treated Abraham. So he was friends with that whole family. Okay, I want to go to here we go. Okay. Chapter 21. We're going to go to verse 4.
Yeah.
And the child grew up, and he was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on that day that Yishak was weaned. And Shem and Eber and all the great people of the land, and Abimelech, king of Palestium. And I tried to look this up. I couldn't find what Palestium is, but it was not in Mitzrayim. It's still in the Promised Land. Does anybody know what it is?
How you spell it?
Pelishtim. Palestium. I'm still going to look it up. I was thinking Palestine
I think it is.
or Philistine. Pelish.
Mexican.
P-A-L-I-S-H.
It is.
It's where? Philistine? Philistine. Okay, so it's actually Philistine. So I'm going to note that in here. I figured it was Philistine or Palestine.
Palestine?
Philistine. Not, yeah, Palestinians. Okay, also Terach, the father of Abraham, and Nachor, his brother, came from Haran, they and all belonging to them, for they greatly rejoiced on hearing that a son had been born to Sarah. And go down to 11. And Ishmael, the son of Abraham, was grown up in those days, and he was 14 years old when Sarah bore Yishak to Abraham. And Elohim was with Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and he grew up, and he learned to use the bow, and he became an archer. And when Yishak was 5 years old, and he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent, and Ishmael came to Yishak, and he seated himself opposite to him, and he took the bow, he drew it, and he put the arrow in it, and he intended to slay Yishak. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Yishak, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Abraham and said to him, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus he sought to do unto him this day. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up in the morning, and he took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and the inhabitants of the wilderness, and Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And his mother afterward went to the land of Mitzrayim, and they dwelt there, and Hagar took a woman for her son from Mitzrayim. And guys, the woman that she took for her son was not a good woman. And Abraham ended up telling him, look, get rid of that tent peg.
Did you go visit her?
He went to visit Ishmael when he arrived. Ishmael was not there, but she never got up off the floor doing, huh? Okay, what holds the house down?
Tent peg.
The tent pegs, keeps it from shaking. He said, this tent peg is bad. It's not holding the home together. And she was beating his children, and she was rude to his father. So she didn't offer him. She told him that she didn't have any bread, she didn't have any water, she had nothing for him, she didn't ask what he wanted, yet she was screaming and yelling and cursing Ishmael and the children and beating them. So Ishmael, so Abraham, what did he say?
Sounds like his mom.
This is not a good tent peg. Get rid of it. And you did.
Useless.
Yes, it's useless. It's not doing anything for the house except destroying it. It's letting the house just go into chaos. So he did, and he went and got. And so he told the woman. He said, "When your husband gets back, tell him that an old man from Canaan came to visit, and this is what he said: get rid of this tent peg." Ishmael knew exactly what he meant, and he went and took another woman. Well, 3 years later, Abraham went back. He visited again, and this woman was like, oh, hello. She didn't know who he was, but she said, oh, please come, get down off your donkey. Come into my house. Let me feed you and give you water. He went in. Everything was in order. She was taking care of the children. And so this time he left word, and he said, when your husband gets back home, tell her that the tent peg is a very good tent peg. So the stories are in here, and you'll want to read them.
I need to know where that is.
The tent peg is a bob. It's a bob.
Yeah, where is that
It's
chapter?
gonna be past
Okay,
it.
you're going to be in 21, and you're going to be in verse. This is 27. Ishmael's woman answered and said to Abraham, we have neither water nor bread, and she continued to sit in the tent and did not notice Abraham. Neither did she ask him who he was. And she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them, and she also cursed her man Ishmael, and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's woman and her children, and he was very angry. And so he said, this is what you tell your husband. A very old man from the land of Palestine came hither to seek you. And thus was his appearance and figure. And I did not ask him who he was. And seeing you were not here, he spoke unto me. And when Ishmael your man returns, tell him thus did the old man say. When you come home, put away this nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instruction to the woman, and he turned and went off on the camel homeward. What?
Oh, I was just showing her the tent peg ribbon.
What it is.
So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Now, we're going to go in verse 22, verse 1, and I'm trying to get y'all out because I know the charge time. And Ishmael then rose up and took his woman and his children and his cattle and all belonging to him, and he journeyed from there and went to his father in the land of Pelitium, in the land of Philistine. What?
We didn't know what time it was.
Yeah, no, we're fine. We're a 2-hour drive.
I'm like, I'm going about fast.
We're not really in a hurry.
Okay, so this is after he's had dinner with the good tent peg, and he sent word to Ishmael, and Ishmael was like, "That's it, I'm going home to my daddy." And Abraham related to Ishmael, his son, the transaction with the first woman that Ishmael took, according to what she did. Think about this, though. His mother, a very spoiled princess, is who chose his wife. And it sounds like she, too, was very lazy and very spoiled. And she wouldn't get up and she would not take care of. Do you have anyone? Yay! He agreed with it. You have anyone aged show up at your house, you should take care of them, right? And try to make them happy. So they dwelt with Abraham many days in that land, and Abraham dwelt in the land of the Philistines a long time. And the days increased, and he was there for 26 years. I want you to hear this too. This is the kind of man that Abram was. In verse 11 of 22, Abraham planted a large grove in Beersheba, and he made to it 4 gates facing the 4 sides of the earth. And he planted a vineyard in it so that the traveler came to Abraham, and he entered any gate which was in his road. And he remained there, and he ate, and he drank, and he satisfied himself, and then he departed. So he was like the roadside
Good servant.
hotel that was open without charge, without fees. But listen to this. The house of Abraham was always open to the sons of men that passed and repassed. So you've been here once and you come back again, come on in. My door is always open. We'll keep the lights on. What was that? Hotel 8 or 6? Who came daily to eat and drink in the house of Abraham. And any man who had hunger and came to Abraham's house, Abraham would give him bread that he might eat and drink and be satisfied. And anyone that came naked to his house, he would clothe with garments as he might choose and give him silver and gold. So he didn't just clothe them. He didn't just feed them. He gave them monies at the same time. He gave them silver and gold and made known to him Yahweh who created him in the earth. This did Abram all his life.
And this is what we're supposed to do, is
Yes.
take care of those misfortunes.
Yes.
Very specific about that.
Yes.
It's a great example of when he gives you much,
Much is required.
yes, and you do so much, and then he blesses you with more.
Now, is that just for the Israelites, that was Gentiles?
It was anyone who, any man, it said
120
any
for-
man, any traveler that came down the road. Listen, guys, you could have a Muslim come through here, and the Muslim people are very, I mean, when I was in Israel, I fell in love with the Muslim people. A whole different, it completely changed my attitude. I fell in love with them.
Well, you can't be programmed with the TV stuff.
No, you can't. You're right. We believe too much of that. And of course, I had done a ministry with it was Islam church, one of their mosques up in Dallas. I had gone there and did a ministry, and I fell in love with the women. The women were just very sweet. They're very meek. The men, I have to look at someone in the eye to talk to them, and I had trouble. I was like, you want somebody? I mean, it was hard for me. Okay, we're still in 22, and we're at verse 40. And I want you to hear this, because this is a boast, and you got to be careful what comes out of your mouth. And Yishak, the son of Abraham, was growing up in these days, and Abraham, his father, taught him in the way of Yahweh to know Yahweh, and Yahweh was with him. And when Yishak was 37 years old, Ishmael, his brother, was going out about with him in the tent, and Ishmael boasted to himself, to Yishak, boasted of himself to Yishak, saying, I was 13 years old when Yahweh spoke to my father to circumcise us. And I did according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke to my father. And I gave my soul unto Yahweh. And I did not transgress his word, which he commanded my father. And Yishak answered Ishmael, saying, why do you boast to me about this little bit of your flesh, which you did take from your body, concerning which Yahweh commanded you? He's like, yeah, just a little bitty piece of skin that you got cut off. He said, as Yahweh lives, the Elohim of my father, Abraham, if Yahweh should say unto my father, take now your son Yishak and bring him up as an offering before me, I would not refrain, but I would joyfully accede to it. And Yahweh heard the word that Yishak spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of Yahweh, and he thought to try Abraham in this matter.
That's why last night we were talking about this. That's why he was so sad when he was leaving his mom. Because he knew that this was going to happen. I don't know, was that here or was that at there?
Well, the thing about it is, he had never been away from his mother.
Yeah.
And his mother was like, my being is all wrapped up in my baby, my little 37-year-old baby. You know, make sure if he's hungry, feed him. He's 37 years old.
But wouldn't you have that feeling though if you just said this as my Yahuwah lives, and then your dad's like, by the way, we're going to sacrifice on this mountain. You, and you, let's go. I'd be like, oh man, it's happening. Oh man.
Well, listen, Ishmael knew. Ishmael knew that
Eleazar
was,
too, right?
I don't know if Eleazar did,
Because
but
they were like, I'm gonna be the next in line.
yeah, Ishmael was like, yeah, we're going to go up there. Daddy's going to sacrifice, you know, who's it? Little baby boy up there on the mountain, and I'm going to be the heir to everything. And Eleazar said, in your mind, I mean, bond lady, you got chased out of here. I'm the heir. So they're arguing about who's going to be getting all the goodies from dad. Who's the firstborn? And the day arrived, and I'm in 46, when the sons of Elohim came and placed themselves before Yahweh, and Satan also came with the sons of Elohim before Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto Satan, whence come you? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahweh said to Satan, what is your word to me concerning all the children of the earth? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, I've seen all the children of the earth who serve you and remember you when they require anything from you. They remember you when they need
Do
something.
you know what that reminds me of? Where it says all of the men are to appear before Yahweh 3 times a year.
Yes.
That's what that reminds me
You know
of.
what, that could be when they're appearing. It could be during those, because what happens on earth, what's commanded on earth is a shadow or a reflection of what's going on in the heavenlies. So that could be very well. That would be interesting to find out when this is. Well, let's think about this. The sacrifice, the Akidah occurred at Passover.
When you're, all the men are committed to appear. At Passover, that's one of the to go up feasts.
Well, it wasn't the Passover, isn't, but the Day of Unleavened Bread is. But that's after, and they had to do this before. I don't know. It would be interesting, though. You sure would. It could have been Sukkot, and he was giving him a few months' notice. Okay, but that is an interesting correlation there. Okay. And Satan answered John and said, I've seen all the children of the earth who serve you and remember you when they require anything from you. And when you give them the thing that they require from you, they sit at their ease and forsake you, and they remember you no more. Have you seen Abraham, the son of Terah, who at first had no children, and he served you, and he erected altars to you wherever he came, and he brought up offerings upon them, and he proclaimed your name continually to all the children of the earth. And now that his son Yishak is born to him, he's forsaken you. He has made a great feast for all the inhabitants of the land, and Yahweh he has forgotten. For amidst all that he has done, he brought you no offering, neither ascending smoke offering nor peace offering, neither ox, lamb, nor goat, of all that he killed on the day that his son was weaned. Even from that time of his son's birth till now, being 37 years, he built no altar before you, nor brought any offering to you, for he saw that you did give what he requested before you, and he forsook you. And Yahweh said to Satan, have you thus considered my servant Abraham? For there is none like him upon the earth, a perfect and upright man. one that fears Elohim and avoids evil, as I live. Were I to say to him, bring up Yishak your son before me, he would not withhold him from me. Much more if I told him to bring up an ascending smoke offering before me from his flock or herds. And Satan answered Yahweh, and he said, speak then now unto Abraham, as you have said, and you will see whether he will not this day transgress and cast aside your works.
That reminds me, uh, obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yes, obedience. And that's exactly what he got from Abraham and from Yishak on this. And at that time the word of Yahweh came to Abraham, and he said unto him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. Hineni, here I am, Abba. And he said to him, take now your son, your beloved son, your Yakid, whom you love, even Yishak, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for an ascending smoke offering upon one of the mountains which shall be shown to you. For there you will see a cloud and a glory of Yahweh. And Abraham said within himself, how shall I separate my son Yishak from Sarah his mother in order to bring him up for an ascending smoke offering before Yahweh? And this was a huge thing, because she cried and she wept. But what he told his wife Sarah was, it's time for our son to go and live with Shem and to learn the ways of Yahweh.
I thought he was weaned before this.
Not quite. 37 years old, and he is still... Listen to her, because and I cried when I read this morning. I was like, oh. She said, you have spoken well, go my Adonai, and do unto him as you have said, but remove him not at all a great distance from me, neither let him remain there too long, for my soul is bound within his. And Abraham said unto Sarah, my daughter, let us pray to Yahweh Elohim that he may do good with us. And she took her son Yishak, and she abode all that night with him, and she kissed and embraced him and gave him instructions till morning. And she said to him, O my son, how can my soul separate itself from you? And she still kissed him and embraced him, and she gave Abraham instructions. And Sarah said to Abraham, O Adonai, I pray you take heed of your son and place your eyes over him, for I have no other son nor daughter but him. Oh, forsake him not. If he be hungry, give him bread, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink, and do not let him go on foot. Don't let him walk. He might stump his little toe. Neither let him sit in the sun. Neither let him go by himself in the road. Neither force him from whatsoever he may desire, but do unto him as you say to you, as he may say to you. And Sarah wept bitterly the whole night on account of Yishak, and she gave him instructions till morning. And guys, they're still crying as they're leaving. She's still clinging. I can't read it because I'll cry. She's still clinging and kissing him and loving him. And he's crying, and Abraham's crying, and all of the people of their area, everybody's crying. This is like, it's a tear fest, okay? And it makes you cry.
And Isaac was like, what's going on?
No, Isaac was crying too, because he's like, my mommy. I'm sorry, but he was my mommy. Okay. Sarah afterward turned away from her son, weeping bitterly, and all her men servants and maid servants returned with her to the tent. So they had literally followed him ways. And this is verse 20 of 23. And Abraham went with Yishak his son to bring up an offering before Yahweh as he commanded. And Abraham took two of his young men with him, Ishmael, the son of Hagar, and Eleazar his servant, and they went together with him. And while they were walking in the road, the young men spoke these words to themselves. And Ishmael said to Eleazar, now my father is going with Yishak to bring him up for an ascending smoke offering to Yahweh, as he commanded him. And now when he returns, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn. And Eleazar answered Ishmael and said, surely Abraham did cast you away from your mother and swear that you should not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has? With all of his treasures, but unto me, his servant. I mean, guys, listen. This reminds me of Yahusha when he's saying, I'm not going to be with you long. Well, I want to sit beside you. Well, who's the greatest? Which one of us is the greatest? Did you just miss the whole point behind his death? I mean, this is the same thing. It's the same thing. Verse 25, and while Abraham was proceeding with his son Yishak the road, Satan came and appeared to Abraham. And listen, guys, he appeared as a very aged old man, humble and contrite, with a contrite spirit. And he approached Abraham and he said, "Are you a silly old brutish man that you go and do this thing this day to your only begotten son? For Elohim gave you a son in your latter days, in your old age, and will you go and slaughter him this day because he committed no violence? And will you cause the soul of your Yakid, your only begotten son, to perish from this earth? Do you not know and understand that this thing cannot be from Yahweh? For Yahweh cannot do unto man such evil upon earth to say, to go to him, slaughter your child." Guys, does Hasatan twist everything? He came as a sweet little man. And Abraham heard this, and he knew it was the word of Hasatan, and who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of Yah. But Abraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan, and Abraham rebuked him, and so he went away. But he came back, and he came to Yishak, and he appeared unto Yishak in the figure of a young man, comely and well-favored. So a very handsome young man. And he approached Yishak, and he said unto him, "Do you not know and understand that your old silly father brings you to the slaughter this day for naught? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is silly, O man. And do not let your precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from this earth." And Yishak heard this and said unto Abraham, "Have you heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus has he spoken." And Abraham answered his son Yishak and said to him, "Take heed of him, and do not listen to his words, nor attend to him, for he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day." And Abraham rebuked him again, and he left. And still, he came up with a little river for them to walk through, and it was getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And suddenly, Abraham said, "Hey, there's never been a river here." And he rebuked Satan again, and that one scared Satan. He said, "Yahweh rebuke you, O Satan. Be gone from us, for we go by the commands of Elohim." And Satan was terrified at the voice of Abraham, and he went away from them, and place again became a dry land as before.
That's
Okay.
crazy, huh?
It is.
They could
He's
even do
just
something like that.
appearing as all these different.
Yeah, but he even changed the
He
landscape
turned into a
here.
river.
He turned into a river, and a deep one, because as they walked, they were getting deeper in the water. It says in 36, and they went deeper into the brook, and the waters reached up to their necks, and they were all terrified on account of the water. And suddenly Abraham said, "I recognize this place. There's no water here. Where'd this come from? Oh, it's got to be of Satan." And he rebuked him. In 40, and Abraham went with Yishak toward the place that Elohim had told him. And on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes. On the third day, he lifted up his eyes, and he saw the place at a distance which Elohim had told him of. And a pillar of fire appeared to him that reached from the earth to heaven, and a cloud of glory upon the mountain. And the glory of Yahweh was seen in the cloud. And Abraham said to Yishak, "My son, do you see in that mountain which we perceive at a distance, that which I see upon it?" And Yishak answered, and he said unto his father, "I see, lo, a pillar of fire and a cloud, and the glory of Yahweh as seen upon the mountain, on the cloud." And Abraham knew that his son Yishak was accepted for Yahweh for an ascending smoke offering. And Abraham said unto Eleazar and unto Ishmael his son, "Do you also see that which we see upon the mountain, which is at a distance?" And they answered and said, "We see nothing more than like the other mountains of the earth." And Abraham knew that they were not accepted for Yahweh. And he said, "Go ye with the donkey, while I and Yishak my son will go yonder mountain." And guys, yonder mountain.
What they were texting.
Maybe that's not what it said. Maybe that's not even what it said. It does go to yonder mount and worship there. You were like making me go, "Oh no, my Texas accent." And so Ishmael and Eleazar stayed there with the donkey. And Abraham took wood for an ascending smoke offering and placed it upon his son Yishak. Isn't it sad? I mean, he placed the wood on his son and had his son carrying what he would be burned on. I mean, you see, this is a very emotional portion here.
Oh,
and he took the
wow.
huh?
Isn't that kind of crazy that Yahusha was carrying the exact wood that he was going to be?
Wow, that is
sacrificed
beautiful.
on?
Yes, he carried the timber. He sure
Carried
did.
on timber.
Wow. Wow.
Boom.
I got to put that in here.
That's a good one.
I've always thought that story was different instead of going, because in my mind, Abram was probably with him, like in spirit, of course, when he was going up the mountain.
Yes. Yes.
I've always kind of thought those two were a lot alike. Those stories.
Well, it really is. So Abraham was with Yishak, and Abba, Yahweh, was
Until that
with,
one moment when we know he wasn't. He's like,
wow.
"Yeah, you're for
Yeah, and then
sure."
suddenly he's like, where are you? Where'd you go? And Abraham took wood for an ascending offering. He placed it on his son, and he took the fire and the knife, and they both went to the place. And when they were going along, Yishak said to his father, Father, behold, I see here the fire and the wood. Where then is the lamb that is to be the ascending smoke offering before Yahweh? And Abraham answered his son Yishak, saying, Yahweh has made choice of you, my son, to be a perfect ascending smoke offering instead of the lamb. I know.
I would have been like, Dad, you're tripping. We're leaving.
Dad, do you remember what that handsome young man said back there about you being old and silly and senile? But
He didn't know before, he knows now. Man, I should have said that to talking smack to Ishmael the other day.
oops.
Yeah.
But
Now.
seriously?
Yeah. And Yishak said unto his father, he said, I will do all that Yahweh spoke to you with joy and cheerfulness and heart. Cheerfulness of heart, sorry. And Abraham again said unto Yishak his son, is there in your heart any thought or counsel concerning this, which is not proper? Tell me, my son, I pray you. Oh, my son, conceal it not from me. And Yishak answered his father Abraham, and he said unto him, O my father, as Yahweh lives and as your soul lives, there is nothing in my heart to cause me to deviate either to the right or to the left from the word that he has spoken to you. Neither limb nor muscle has moved or stirred at this, nor is there in my heart any thought or evil counsel concerning this. But I am of joyful and cheerful heart in this matter. And I say, blessed is Yahweh, who has this day chosen me. He chose me. I mean, think of that. He's chosen me to be an ascending smoke offering before him. And Abraham greatly rejoiced at the words of Yishak. And they went on and they came together to that place that Yahweh had spoken of. And Abraham approached to build the altar in that place. And Abraham was weeping. And Yishak took stones and mortar and until they had finished building the altar. And Abraham took the wood and placed it in order upon the altar which he had built. And he took his son Yishak, and he bound him in order to place him upon the wood which was upon the altar, to slay him for an ascending smoke offering before Yahweh. And Yishak said to his father, Bind me securely, and then place me upon the altar, lest I should turn and move and break loose from the force of the knife upon my flesh, and thereby profane the ascending smoke offering. And Abraham did so. And Yishak still said to his father, O my father, when you shall have slain me and burnt me for an offering, take with you that which shall remain of my ashes to bring to Sarah my mother, and say to her, this is hard to read. This is a sweet smelling savor of Yishak, but do not tell her if she should sit near a well or upon any high place, lest she should cast her soul after me and die. And Abraham heard the words of Yishak, and he lifted up his voice and he wept when Yishak spoke these words. And Abraham's tears gushed down Yishak, gushed down upon Yishak his son. So he is, standing over him and just weeping because he's fixing to have to slay his son. And Yishak wept bitterly, and he said to his father, Hasten you, O my father, and do with me the will of Yahweh Elohim, as he has commanded you. And the hearts of Abraham and Yishak rejoiced at this thing, which Yahweh had commanded them, but the eye wept bitterly, while the heart rejoiced. And Abraham bound his son Yishak, and he placed him on the altar upon the wood, and Yishak stretched forth his neck upon the altar before his father, and Abraham stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay his son as an ascending smoke offering for Yahweh. And at that time, the angels came, and they were petitioning Yahweh, like maybe he doesn't see what's going on down here. At that time, the angels of mercy came before Yahweh, and they spoke to him concerning Yishak, saying, Oh, Yahweh, you are merciful and passionate king over all that you have created in heaven and in earth, and you support them all. Give therefore ransom and redemption instead of your servant Yishak, and pity and have compassion upon Abraham and Yishak his son, who are this day performing your commands. Have you seen, O Yahweh, how Yishak the son of Abraham, your servant, is bound down to the slaughter like an animal? Now therefore, let your pity be roused for them, O Yahweh. And at that time Yahweh appeared unto Abraham and called to him from heaven, and he said unto him, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him, for I know that you fear Elohim in performing this act, and in not withholding your son, your only begotten son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in the thicket by the horns. That was the ram which Yahweh Elohim had created in the earth in the day that he made heaven and earth. For Yahweh had prepared this ram from that day to be an ascending smoke offering instead of Yashak. Isn't that beautiful? But listen, and this ram was advancing to Abraham when Hasatan caught hold of him and entangled his horns in the thicket. So Satan bound him up so he couldn't come, so that he might not advance to Abraham, in order that Abraham might slay his son. And Abraham, seeing the ram advancing to him and Satan withholding him, fetched him and brought him before the altar. And he loosened his son Yashak from his binding, and he put the ram in his stead. And Abraham killed the ram upon the altar and brought it up as an ascending offering brought it up as an offering in the place of his son Yashak. And Abraham sprinkled some of the blood of the ram upon the altar, and he exclaimed, and he said, This is the place of my son, and may this be considered this day as the blood of my son before Yahweh. And all that Abraham did on this occasion by the altar, he would exclaim and say, This is in the room of my son, and may it this day be considered before Yahweh in the place of my son. And Abraham finished the whole of the service by the altar, and the service was accepted before Yahweh, and was accounted as if it had been Yishak. And Yahweh blessed Abraham and his seed on that day. And at this point, Hasatan goes to Sarah, and he really is torturing her. But after this, what we see is that Abraham does send his son Yishak to stay with Shem, and he stays with him, I believe, 3 years. Is that right? Let's see here. Abraham sent away his son Yishak, and he went to the house of Shem and Eber. This is in the next chapter, verse 17, to learn the ways of Yahweh and his instructions. And Abraham remained there 3 years. So it sounds like he sent his son, and he stayed with his son. He was like, I'm sending you to Shem's, but I'm going to stay there with you, okay? And don't you know, it felt like he was at home. I mean, because that really was more the place that he grew up than with his own father. So, guys, listen, we missed a lot because there's so much in this chapter and in this Torah portion. But the important thing is that we need to have that same heart, willing to lay everything down for Yah, to have that heart and that willingness and that strength. And is it going to be easy? No, it's not.
What's beautiful is that the son was like following in his father's footsteps and seeing what his father did, and said, you know what, hurry up and do this. I mean, we have to do what he commands us, because I see what you're doing, you know. You follow his commands, and so do I.
Wow.
When we're having a bad day, we should definitely read that part.
Yes, when we think life's being unfair to us, we should definitely read that.
And then just praise him to it.
That's right.
So if you're in will,
We have so
what you
much.
want,
We have so much to be thankful for,
yes.
and it does need to be His will and His way and His timing. Does anybody want to add anything to that, or anybody have questions? Do we have any questions online? Do we even have anybody online?
Is anybody in there?
Hello? Is there anyone out there? Because I don't know how to check on this
We
thing.
speak of obedience, but it's how much do we love him, and how much obedience we must do for him. And that's how
You're
much
right.
That's how much Abraham loved.
Yes, he did. He was taught to love him. He knew who he was. He saw how Yah loved Noah and how he loved Shem and how they were blessed from their love and obedience to him. So, you know something, it's easy to love someone when you see how well they're taking care of you and how much they love you. And y'all loved us first, guys. He loves us even when we don't love him. He loved us before we were even born in the flesh.
Before you created us.
Yep. And his plans for us exceed anything that we could want for ourselves. I mean, they're bigger and they're better and they're.
Well, that's why I cried on you when I spoke about that, because I'm trying to do with him.
Yes.
To show him the blessing that Elohim has for you. He do what he says. We showed him the past 15, 17 years.
Yes.
The slow process to deprogram yourself and everything I've learned and what I've done. Go with these two and try to teach them. Get in there early. You'll get that peace.
Yes.
You have that protection. You have that transformation. And you carry that onto your kids. And that's where the house will go. And you'll continue that fashion.
You know, that's what to me is so exciting, is to see that, like Whitney and Taylor, their kids are going to be brought up in this. They're being brought up in this. Look at Bradley.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I asked how old he was. 16. I was like, wow.
What?
She's very.
You know,
Brady.
Oh, what was
I'll
that?
be-
I'm going, who's Bradley?
so I want to
My brother.
And David and
I didn't know what
Joshua.
you meant. I didn't think you mean.
We're messing
So-
with you.
You must.
The thing is though, like, honestly, because I have like absolutely like no family that follows this walk, we're basically, it's just us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a town that is mostly Christian. So it gets pretty lonely, I'm gonna be honest. And I've strongly been seeking Elohim because, and I've been feeling this pull and this like, you know, I'm a mom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a woman, I have 3 sons. And when I read things like the Word and I read this book, I realize what my sons need.
Mm-hmm.
And this last Sukkot, whenever Jerome and his mom came over, we read where it said that all the men have to appear before Yahweh 3 times throughout the year.
Yes.
And as a mom, raising boys and realizing what it is they actually need, they need to be around men.
Yes.
And this has been one of the biggest struggles because I know I can only do so much.
Yep.
I cannot teach them how to be men.
Mm-mm.
I can tell them how to be men, but the Torah is supposed to be a doer of the word. And there are only certain things that I can do. And so I'm so grateful that I am able to start early on teaching them Torah. But Abba knows I've been praying for this. We, as a body, and especially today waking up, I see a repetitiveness of, we know all the right verses, and we know how to cross-reference. We know how to pull out a book out of that wasn't in the canon, that they removed out of the canon. But I just have felt this conviction and God speaking to my heart that there is something more that has to be done.
Yes.
And it can only be done if the body comes together and starts talking about these things. Because he calls us to be a nation of priests.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so much as a woman I can do.
Yes.
And we're still obviously under the system that we're under. So that there's got to be, I think that's very important, and we need to bring back that all the men should appear before Yahweh. I think that there's something really significant about that, because if you even look at Europe and you look at the history that's happened over here, there was an attack on the men, because the men are the head, God is the head, the men, Mashiach is our head, right?
Mm-hmm.
The order of it. Then it goes the man, the woman, and the kids. So, I think for a long time here, especially like with my generation and even like the generation before me, there's been a lacking of fathers raising their kids.
Yep.
And we've got to bring that back to the best that we can.
Well, I mean,
The men have to teach the boys.
otherwise, I'd say the whole thing.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's even not just boys, it's just boys, but females too, daughters.
Oh, yeah.
They
The
need that.
women have to teach the girls.
Well, no, the man has to be there for the daughters too, because
Yeah.
if not, because that's the problem I'm having with Addie, because her dad's not in it.
Yeah.
You know, he's just a deadbeat. And that's when I'm taking my place and to be her dad. To show that the way you need to be treated is not like that, because women get there just a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You
It
see
is.
that that's the way they act with that, but I mean, I
It
get
is.
that. And you got to be broke, that's not got to be broke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but a male figure, and it's not where, you know, some of them that are in the tour, they take it way beyond to what, you know, he didn't make a woman from the toe, bone toe, from the head, he made it from the side, so he put in the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a wound of a man, as I would say,
Yeah.
to be a woman,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
They're
And
half
a
and half.
man, yes, you know, but we make a lot of discussions, but the major ones, I make it. But I do talk to her about it, I want her input on it.
And I'm like, why are you asking? Because you're my partner, you know?
This is the image of y'all right here.
And that's what
Yes.
we're supposed to be.
Husband and wife.
That's it.
One flesh.
One flesh, one unit, you know. I'm teaching her, you know,
You'll
I did when
have
we
it
first
one
got
day.
together, because I was
You can
so
have
many
it.
years in it. It was like, how does it feel for a moment, like, how does it feel? You know, she only did it for a moment, you know, we got together, that's not fair. And I thought about it, well, you taught me all these years, now I can teach her and do her.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't let that pride and ego go in order to learn. You know, it's
She
crazy.
has learned.
I was trying to figure out, is she saying, I'm crazy, or
Wait,
he's
what?
crazy?
We're all crazy, it's just how severe is it?
I like
I'm
that.
not crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to say there's nothing like mother love, mother.
That's right.
Mother love for.
The love of a mother.
It's out there in the fire.
Both.
Oh, good. Never mind.
Mother.
It's beautiful, it does, and I wanna see them go out, she does, they do, what he chooses to do, I mean, that's why I cried, it's like, man, I said, you guys feel a lot, once it hits you, I said, just fear see, it all will start falling into place.
Mm.
You know, when we talk to the Mormons, I was like, how proud, you know, that he had them.
That's amazing. That is. That was a challenge for him.
That's really,
Yeah.
We're so proud of you.
Proud of
but
that.
that's what he's learned from you. I mean, you have,
Most in y'all.
and it showed you, it really should have made you feel good that he did
Oh, yeah,
that,
I mean,
because you could see he did retain
The
it.
joy in the heart, you know, even with
Yeah.
Addie do a little bit with teachers, and once you see Stephanie the teacher,
They
well,
will.
they'll put that lights on her, and they'll go in and say, hey, why are you doing this? Why you know?
Why are you reading that Harry Potter or whatever you read? You know?
You
And
know,
she's
just
like,
say-
it's just for entertainment.
That's
I know it's not real, it's just for
But once they know, I mean, they're gonna start, you know, the same way, a lot of us.
Uh-huh.
All my things large. And none of it.
They all are.
But they all will come back to me, you know, pray for this, you know, what do you think about this and whatnot. But, yeah. A bunch of alcoholics and weed smokers.
I don't read Harry Potter.
Twilight, I'm sorry.
Can I
Thank you, Betty.
add something?
Yes.
So
Oh, you're very welcome.
I found this, I can't say I found out, I just said it. It's out of Luke
It could be,
21. And it talks about, it says, they shall fall by edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trampled underfoot by the nations until the times of the nations are filled. It goes down and it says, I'll just read it. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on the earth anxiety of nations, and bewilderment at the roaring of the sea and agitation. Men fainting from fear in the expectation of what is coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then they shall see the son of Adam coming in a cloud with power and much esteem. And when these matters begin to take place, then look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. So you read that, and you're like, okay, I'm going to look up, lift your head up, right? You look up head, it means chiefs, leaders, heads. And if you go over to Numbers 10, it talks about how in the wilderness they would have 2 silver trumpets, and the Levites would blow these to call the chiefs of each tribe. So each tribe had a chief, like a chief warrior guy, right, that led the army of that tribe. And this is how they did battle in the wilderness. This is how they would communicate. They would blow the silver trumpet, right, to call the heads. But if they blew 2, it was to call the whole camp to the tent of appointment. So in reading this, I was like, Messiah is saying when redemption draws near, to lift up the chiefs. This is like much deeper. This goes exactly with all the men appearing 3 times a year. Because it wasn't just about, hey, I just want to see all these men come to the feast. No, you gotta think, this had to do with their military. And you're raising up the younger generation to follow in the Father's footsteps. Because, you know, we do this every year. We do Yom Kippur, we blow the shofar, and we don't really comprehend the fullness of what we're actually doing, right? But when Messiah comes, he will be our chief, our high priest and king, like David, who went to battle. And I believe that's why he said when you start to see all this, you need to raise up, lift up your chiefs. Well, I thought about this. Where are they? They're all the men that have been trampled underfoot in the previous generations. Do you get what I'm saying? To where they have weakened us as a nation, as a people. Like half of us didn't even know we had a connection to Israel our whole life. But Isaiah,
once all that fear comes, that's what they're going to come to. And that's the sad, scary and sad thing about it, because even your elect is going to get fall away, be the first one to fall away.
Yes.
How would I have believed in a heavenly father if I couldn't even trust my earthly father? Like that was what was hard for me at first because I didn't have a dad or a mom really, just being honest. So how was I supposed to be able to trust this heavenly
You
father
couldn't.
everybody loves so much?
You couldn't.
I didn't.
I mean, you had to learn.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said earlier. I mean, the Bible will teach you. You come knowing nothing. How come much function is that? The Bible teaches you all. From wherever sin world you come from, it'll teach you.
I feel like he's restored that in people in our lives today, in our walk. Because I have women I can look up to that are my spiritual mothers and sisters and brothers that I learn from.
Well, that's
every
in
day.
Titus. Titus speaks
I
about
forgot to tell you.
elder women teaching the young, the elder reading teaching the
Oh, no.
I think he looked at our affliction and knows a lot of us had a really hard upbringing.
I agree.
I had a hard upbringing.
Don't you feel like that we
things
are
you wouldn't even imagine.
Immediately put in.
We are the ones who are chosen. That's why we were awakened before many others.
Wait just a second, we're still on mine.
Now, earlier.
Guys, let's pray out real quick so I can let our live
Oh, you're
streamers
still
go.
alive?
Yes. Oh, yes, I have not said goodbye.
You can hold them, I forgot.
So, live streamers.
Yes.
She didn't know we were live. So, live streamers, want to thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope you got something out of it. We went pretty fast through, and there was a lot more. And I'm sorry that we didn't go as deep as I wanted to, but next week we're going to have fun, and we're going to learn more. So if you've got questions about the Akidah or the sacrifice, if you've got questions about anything in Genesis, give us a writing, because Valerie knows how to get hold of them. I can't. I don't see anything on my screen. So I think somebody was talking to me last week. I think it was Jonathan. And I didn't even see it until we had already closed out. But we love you. We want to thank you for coming. And let's pray out, guys. Y'all. Wait, Pete, would you pray us out? We've got a man in here who is chasing after y'all. I want you to pray us out, if you don't mind.
Now, Father, we want to thank you for another Shabbat that you bring the Israelite camp together to study your word, to be on this covenant that you asked us to do, and we shall follow. We want to ask you forgiveness for our sins that we transgressed against you. forsaking our own desires. Help us to seek your desires in your kingdom and your righteousness. We thank you for your favor and your mercy, your love and commitment and compassion given to all your children. We ask you to open our eyes spiritually to see,
Yes.
to hear you, to our minds to understand you, our hearts to receive. We ask you to continue to help us, strengthen us. We are our ring of protection, our rock of foundation. We want to thank you for all the many blessings you give us that we see, and forgive us for the blessings that you do give us that we don't see. Yes. Forgive us for things we take for granted. Help all of us going through trials and tribulations across the four corners of the world. We have to seek your love, your strength, your peace, your joy. Help your words to be stored in our hearts, planted in there for our fruits of the Spirit to grow, and to blossom, and to be a light to the world, to others around us. Help us to lift each other up and to seek in you. We thank you for all you've done for us. And again, we ask you to forgive us for all the transgressions from our forefathers. And we give you praise, honor, esteem, and the last son of our
Amen. Thank you so much, Pete. That was a good prayer. So, guys, thank you for joining us. And we hope you learned a bunch, and we hope you had fun. So, everybody, Shabbat Shalom. Until next week, guys. We love y'all.
What do you think? You like Valerie's trash? Yep. Want some more? Okay.
It's kind of